Shocking moments in paternity court.
These are all God's children. Those children belong to God. Those are God's children we are playing with. She didn't ask to be here.
No, she didn't. Why would you put Miss Smith and her daughter through this drama without just saying from the beginning?
After the Smith family's son's tragic death, Miss Laster and Miss Hicks unexpectedly came forward claiming that the demised fathered a child with each of them. Two women with almost the same storyline on their lips just confused the plaintiff. So, they came to Judge Lake.
Miss Hicks, you say the Smith family has a personal vendetta against you, and that is the only reason why they're denying your 3-year-old son, Jakari. Miss Laster, you testify that you are heartbroken that the Smith family is denying your 4-year-old son, Malachi.
Miss Hicks was sure that Mr. Travis was the father, but the plaintiff wasn't buying it. However, the young baby mama had some genuine reason to believe that. Nonetheless, first, let's watch how Miss Smith testified a plethora of her doubts.
The day of my brother passing, the family had came over to the house and then we heard a knock on the door. It was Brittany. She popped up like a Pop-Tart.
She popped up like a Pop-Tart.
Yeah, big and pregnant.
Lies.
Big and
pregnant. Lies.
Yes, and she said she was pregnant with my brother's baby. I was shocked, really, because she had never been around the family, never came to us once
Girl,
and said that she was pregnant.
However, as far as the defendant was concerned, there was another sweet mystery that further acts as a catalyst to all the concerns against Mr. Travis. This makes sure no wonder he had been living a colorful life.
She came after the fact my brother hadn't passed, and she said, "Can Malachi stay tonight? You want to keep your nephew?" And I just was looking crazy like my nephew. I said, okay, because I'm thinking, because they're my nieces, I'm going to claim him as my nephew. Come on, he can stay tonight too. And then she was like, this really could be your brother's child. So I was like, oh.
Never mind, both the defendants were certain in what they had to say, but Miss Smith, being the Messiah to death and with the potential father gone, wasn't ready to let them climb the barricade. She had an explanation for everything these baby mamas were putting her through.
Did your brother ever tell you or say anything about
No,
Miss
ma'am.
Hicks being pregnant?
No, ma'am. I don't know where she get all this making up story. I don't understand. My brother was dead and gone when she came to the house and said she was
You
pregnant.
was on the phone and invited me over.
Okay.
Be real.
You don't know what was going on.
Why you ain't stepped to me? You don't have my child.
Let's get some more.
By now, it looked like this paternity game was far from being over. The discussion only gave feathers to the notion that Miss Smith was here in the court for a reason, not wanting anyone to have the death benefits of her brother unless the baby is proven to be Mr. Travis's. But just listen to what Miss Lester has to claim.
I had Malachi DNA tested too, which came out to be 99.9% not his. So that's how I know for sure he's not the other guy's.
99.9% not his?
Yes.
I thought it'd be 0%.
Anyway, with enough confusion going on in the courtroom, Judge Lake knew all that mattered to the Smiths was the DNA result, because they surely didn't want to get invested in babies who weren't related to them. So, let's get to that envelope, shall we?
The percentage of relatedness is 0.00%. You are not related. The percentage of relatedness is 0.00%. You are not related.
Here's to another conundrum of absent fatherhood. Miss Connolly wasn't sure if the defendant is the biological father to her 23-year-old daughter. Being a hustler back in the day made the alleged drop his avuncular hat and scoot out of the family picture. Hence, the session commences.
I've never had a lot of friends. I've only kept about 2 or 3 friends. And then I have to deal with the reality of my own father, who's alive and well, not in jail, not dead, not in another state. He's living in the same state and has not tried to contact me, doesn't want to be around me. That hurts.
Aw, the poor girl always wanted to be the daddy's little princess. But we don't always get what we desire, now do we? Anyway, Mr. Harrison knew what pain he had caused to the young plaintiff, and that's why he stood looking guilty for his actions and was ready to answer, and had a lot to say regarding his doubts.
We had a relationship, and one daughter was born, and at the time she said, well, that's not your child.
But it wasn't your child.
Right, so I just kept on.
It was proven to be so.
Right, well, no, it wasn't proven. She said it wasn't mine, so I took her word for it. And as we kept progressing, she got pregnant again with our teacher, and I thought it was my child, so I stayed with her and tried to do the right thing.
Well, that explains why the daddy wasn't willing to connect with his alleged daughter, Miss Artisha. But just wait for a second. What was the big mama up to in her past? She also had some bitter confessions to make.
He thought she was at first, and then doubt began to set in. Were you certain Mr. Harrison was Artisha's father?
No, I wasn't, because at that time, I'm ashamed of myself because I was living a fast life. I was a party girl, like, you know, when I used to go out a lot, I used to sell drugs, hang in the street, party animal.
So Miss Connolly wasn't sure herself, and she testified to having a promiscuous past. Nonetheless, at least now she's honest. Coming back to the hearing, the plaintiff had more things to clarify, because as of today, she was on a truth streak, and she was going to let everything out in just one go.
We moved in an apartment together, and at that point, then it was kind of like, you know, he was a Bama, he was a country person, you know, he went to church, and I was just used to hanging out in the street, so, you know, me and my girlfriend, you know, we would go out, and I was a little promiscuous, you know, fast. I got pregnant with my oldest child, and come to find out that, you know, it wasn't his child.
All right.
Can someone explain how you can be a good wife selling drugs? Well, Miss Connolly believed she was. Ironic, right? If that wasn't enough, living the street life of OG had put old mama through some adventures.
Were you with many different men or just one other man besides Mr. Harrison? Several. Okay.
But my point is that I think 23 years, if they're asking the question, why now, why not now? But I think this could have stopped a long time ago. She would have went to court and asked for child support. That would have solved all this right then and there.
She said she did. She
I
couldn't
did.
find you.
I did.
Hustling, partying, and now even getting locked up. Sounds like Big Mama G was the game in her old days. But that has made her child suffer. However, Mr. Harrison raised another question that solidified his claim, but the plaintiff stood ignorant of what he said.
If you felt I was the father or possibly
Right.
the father, then why wouldn't you
She
go
should have stopped
down
that long time ago.
and
child
go to the
support wouldn't have
courts
stopped
and
that.
request child support, and then they would have found
That's
me?
correct.
And we would have had a DNA test 20-something
That's
years ago.
correct, that's
So
correct.
because that didn't happen, in your mind, you began to doubt even more.
Right.
Knowing that both parties have been looking for closure, Judge Lake was aware of the fact that now only the DNA envelope is the critical anticipation in the room. So she went straight forward to setting the record straight.
Connolly versus Harrison when it comes to 23-year-old Artisha Connolly. Mr. Harrison, you are her father.
Congratulations. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Scrubby confusion's going on, as Mr. Cooper was certainly sure that in light of the recent events, it was impossible he fathered Miss Canterbury's 2-year-old son. He wants nothing to do with child support. Usual claim, right? But that's what this court's all about.
I watch people come in here all the time, and some people be good men and get criticized, and then they be sitting here, then all they want is just the money from them, and it ain't gonna be me today.
And you're convinced that Jaden's not your biological child.
She know that baby ain't mine. That's like she just called me last night talking about some, would you be mad if he wasn't yours?
That's a lie, though. That's a lie.
Well, that's one bold testimony. Pointing fingers at the defendant, Mr. Cooper had some more concerns to show regarding baby mama's past. Seems like he'd been preparing for this day all his life.
Well, we only had sex like 3 or 4 times together, that's it. And he told me while we were having sex that he wanted me to have his baby.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Your Honor, she's a lie. I never said that.
But you did.
What did you say?
I see it. I'm enjoying this moment right now in so many words. That's all I said, Your Honor.
Mr. Cooper seems like he's holding something against the mommy. The guy was a total scapegoater. And the plaintiff wasn't done at all. Just listen to how we found out about Miss Canterbury's pregnancy. Man, there's just one thing after another.
I got a call. My mama called me. Some girl here with a baby. Huh? I'm still a baby. What you mean, baby? That's how I felt. I'm like, man, you got me messed up. I ain't got no kids.
And that is the first time you've ever heard about Jaden. Your mom calls you and says it's a girl over here with a baby.
The plaintiff was holding an arsenal of doubts, and it seemed like he'd be ready to believe it was his child when pigs fly. Or, of course, DNA proves it. Nonetheless, in a spiral of previous allegations, another situation emerges from the dark that shook the entire courtroom, and Miss Canterbury owes everyone some explanation.
If you had a baby and you thought a man was your potential baby father, once you let him know whether he is or he not, you would say something and you would let him know, it's a potential, you could be. You would say that, right?
Of course, but I wouldn't have a
nobody
potential.
stuck in the dark, living a lie. Man, she admitted to being with other dudes. Everything. When I met her, she was already messing with other people when I first met her.
Without even flinching an eye, Miss Canterbury stayed firm on her claims. But wait right there. What about all of the accusations being rubbed in her face? And even clarifying about the timeline wasn't helping, because the potential father had brought the conception calendar to the court.
This is the first time we had sex. I wore a condom.
Nope.
Second time we had sex was this week through the 28th. And I remember it was threesome. We was all drunk.
You are
And I had a condom
definitely
on.
alive.
How are you so sure you wore the condom?
Judge, I woke up with it on. It was on me.
Well, Mr. Cooper, not just you. We all came here to find out if the baby is yours or not. But anyway, the dramatic theater of doubts was still on, and both parties were desperately waiting for the results. Hence, here comes the paternity truth envelope, and it reads as follows.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Cooper, you are the father.
Like I said. That's what I thought.
Thank you, Your Honor, for those results. I will leave you alone. I will do
No,
everything
you won't,
want me to
because
do.
you got a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old to take care of.
Coming up in another encounter with Judge Lake, Ms. Burks drags her boss from work to paternity court, who's alleged to have fathered her 4-year-old daughter. Well, they must have both taken the job too seriously.
He asked you for a massage and he ended up massaging you?
That's incorrect, Your Honor. What happened was, one day we was together, we all got drunk after a day of work. She asked me, could she spend the night in my home? And she asked to massage my back and my feet.
He lying, massage. That's
a
lie. That's a lie.
We're not sure if this was part of her job description or who asked for it first, but the child is here and baby mama is answerable to her. However, trying to smartly get away with the allegations, Mr. Smith said one thing after another. But wait, Miss Plaintiff has everything mapped down to the last detail.
Why such a discrepancy, though? She says it was ongoing for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
You say it was only one time.
Because for that 2-year span, when she was saying that was this supposedly relationship, she was literally telling our friends and co-workers that I was her boyfriend.
That's not true.
Standing firm on his grounds, Mr. Smith didn't even blink while testifying to what he believed. But wait, Miss Longbraids had all her cards placed to counter the allegation being put up by the defendant. Look what her brother has to say in this testimony.
I was working for him for a period of time as well. When I go home, them guys would still be at work. They'd be like spending the nights together, so.
Can I respond to that?
I would like that.
Reason why, Your Honor, she would spend nights at my home was because now my business was in my home. So there was also another male partner who stayed in my home as well.
There was a lot more going on than being told by both parties, as if they're hiding something. But they're in front of Judge Lake, and today was the day when slipping emotions or words won't be doing them any favors. However, I wonder, what took him so long to petition a paternity test?
I will admit that I did not find out if the child was mine as much as I should have in hindsight. This young lady came to me and told me at the time that this was not my child.
Look at her. She looks just like him.
Your Honor, the only reason that is an issue is because the gentleman who she was with at the time is very similar to my exact features as well.
After this, the defendant went on to state his testimony, and surprisingly, Miss Plaintiff wasn't letting the end loose. Come on, you can't be lying for that long. However, among all the concerns being tabled by Mr. Smith, he told the court something that no one was expecting. Oh, man!
I've had Messiah in my home several times living with me because of Ms. Burke's inability to keep a safe environment for Messiah. And the reason why I did that is because I did not want to see the child go through the same situation Ms. Burks did.
Isn't that just considerate on the defendant's part? But was he telling the truth? That's for Judge Lake to find out. However, consistently not agreeing with what Mr. Smith has to say, Miss Plaintiff gets noticed by everyone in the courtroom.
Who is Messiah calling daddy?
Me, the reason, Your Honor, she called me daddy is because when she can't, or when she falls down, I've always been the one there to get and
Yeah,
take
off
them
and
out.
on.
Mr. Smith, you say Messiah calls you daddy.
Yes,
Have you stepped up to the plate consistently?
consistently.
Talking about who's lying or who's not isn't gonna solve anything. With all this being said and done, it was time for the results, as both of them were desperately waiting for them for about 4 years, and their long wait was finally about to end. Let us have some insight into how the DNA situation went down.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Smith, you are not her father.
What?
You are not her father, sir.